Good afternoon. Hello, my name's Tony. I am known on Instagram as 36 feet 10 inches. I'm going to talk this afternoon. I should explain, this is the first time I've done one of these videos. I'm ridiculously nervous because I'm sitting here, I think, talking to an empty phone at the moment. So I'm going to talk this afternoon about, anybody who knows much about World War II planes will know what 36 feet 10 inches is. That's 36 feet 10 inches is the standard wingspan of a Supermarine Spitfire, and that's the kind of plane I know the most about. It's the one I specialise in. But this afternoon I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit wider than that. I believe about 103 feet is the wingspan, and that's this bad boy. No, it's so wide I can't actually fit it on the screen. There we go. Go back a bit. So this is my shiny new 1/48 scale Lancaster kit from Hong Kong Models. I got this from High Peak Scale Models. You can find them on Instagram. Super service. Big shout out to those guys. Hope to see you in Chapel in a couple of weeks. I'm over there. I'm going to talk about the model in a bit. I've had the lid off. Had a look. I've not really looked in any depth inside and what's there, but I'm going to talk a little bit firstly about the particular plane that I'm planning to build. There's a bit of a story to this. It's one I've had in mind a couple of years. There's actually a little bit of a local connection because not half an hour from here you've got the Newark Air Museum. They've got a chunk of this Lancaster in there. It was serial number W4964 WSJ. Quite a well-known Lancaster. It had the famous artwork of the Johnny Walker logo from the whiskey bottle on the nose, and it was notable in that it amassed over 100 operations. It actually had 105 ops marked in its nose, but there were 2 lost in the logbook somewhere along the way, so it actually had 107. The mission they thought was the 100th mission, but in fact was the 102nd, was the first of the Lancaster Tirpitz raids, where 9 Squadron that this aircraft flew with and 617 Squadron, famously the Dam Busters, they went off to Norway to drop bombs on the Tirpitz. It took another 2 attempts to finally sink the thing, but our plane wasn't involved with that. So yeah, it's just down the road. I've had it in mind to build this thing for a couple of years now. Firstly, I mean, you can build this plane more cheaply and smaller, straight out the box from the Revell 1/72nd scale kit, and that's where I first saw it, and it caught my imagination. Now, I didn't realise at that time that there's a chunk of the plane in my neighbourhood, as it were, but it really caught my imagination, particularly when I was able to get hold of this. This particular airframe has its own excellent biography by a gentleman called Gordon Thorburn, which is exhaustively well researched. It's got everything in there, op by op, crew member by crew member. Quite sobering that 103 crewmen who served on this particular airframe were actually killed on operations while flying with other aircraft. It's well known that the attrition rate, the casualty rate for Bomber Command during the war was appalling. Many young men lost their lives on these missions, and whatever you think about area bombing and all the rest of it, they were certainly very brave and decent men. So this is the book. I need go no further on my research. That's fantastic. It's worth noting, actually, on page 185 here, you can actually see that's the piece of fuselage that they got down the road in Newark, which is now on display, which for many years was used as a garden shed, would you believe? I think a farmer got hold of it after the war when the plane was scrapped, and he just kept his tools in it or whatever until it was eventually donated to the museum. So I was last down there, a few weeks ago. I make like a yearly pilgrimage, to be honest. I'm a bit obsessed with this particular plane. So that's the one I'm going to build, okay? So let's have a look at the model. I don't know anything about Lancasters, really. I know what they look like. I know a little bit about Spitfires now, I suppose, but with this, in terms of accuracy and all the rest of it, I couldn't really tell you. So let's lift the lid off, and oh my word, that's a lot of plastic. Okay, right. It's a surprisingly small box with a huge amount of plastic stuffed into it, and it's all beautifully presented and beautifully wrapped, and it's huge. It is going to be huge. I'm not quite sure I'm going to put this when I've finished it, so I think it'll be a long job. Now I've got a stack of plastic here. Let's start with the paperwork, shall we? So here's the instructions. Come to that line in a minute. Beautifully printed. Glossy, full colour, same sort of standard as I'm used to seeing in the Edouard Profi packs, for example, on the Spitfires. It's all your very modern 3D CAD CAM type stuff there. Shouldn't have any trouble with that. Let's have a look. There are 2 suggested schemes. One is from 467 Squadron of the Royal Australian Air Force, based at Waddington, again down the road, in 1944. And the other one, let's have a look, is W4118. Admiral Prune. It's got the little Mickey Mouse artwork on it there. I believe, and this is by no means gospel, I believe that aircraft was flown by Guy Gibson before he got involved with the Dam Busters. But yeah, so that's a fairly well-known aircraft. So you got two fairly standard-looking Lancasters. I mean, they had that sort of green and brown over black look about them, and there's not much to separate them. There aren't many sort of colourful colour schemes that you can talk about on the Lanc. But yeah, you got the parts map, which is useful, finding your way around stuff. That's a nice piece of work. And we've also got, this is rather nice. You got a lovely poster of the box artwork, and that's fit to frame. You could literally put that behind your model if you wanted to. So that's a little bit of a bonus. So let's have a look at what we got in the box. Where to start? Well, fuselage. It's huge. It is huge. I'm gonna have to stock up on Humbrol 78 interior green for this, I think. We've got the two sides of the fuselage here. Let's whip that out. It's nicely moulded inside in terms of detail. You've got full ribbing, all the rest of it. I mean, how accurate that is, I couldn't possibly say, but there we are. The full length of it is ribbed up on the inside. I think Lancaster interiors are mainly green with a bit of black at the nose, but I've got to do some research in that respect. Then you've got a couple of pairs of wings, which are individually packaged. Well, the wings are huge. I think the wingspan on this thing's going to be about 66 centimetres when it's finished, which is a bit of a monster. So there you've got the wings. You've got, it appears, flaps that, oh, this almost clips together. Well, looks like it's going to be too easy, but it looks like it's got separate flaps that can be dropped at the back. A bit more interior green. This is quite nice. This is the bombs. As much bombs can be nice. You've got what I think is I think they're called cookies, the cylindrical looking one, and then you've got a whole number of, I don't know, incendiary explosives or whatever they are. I'm sure there are experts that can tell me about these things, but that's all there. I did briefly have the Airfix 172nd kit in the stash, and if I remember rightly, you actually had to go and buy separate stores for that, separate weaponry, separate bombs. Who needs that expense? So that's all there. Another set of wings, let's get that out. And here you've got more rattly plastic. I mean, it is beautifully packaged. It's got to be said. It's a very, very sturdy box. If I remember rightly, the Revel box was pretty nasty. It was one of those blue end opening boxes they use. It just gets squashed flat in the stash. So here you've got the wheels, which are actually quite nice. I'm not a big one for aftermarket, but quite often I'll spoil myself with a set of resin wheels because they tend to be better detail, but these are really quite nice. They've got the weighting effects, not flattened off at one side, decent hub detail. You've got what appears to be some bits of engine there. I don't know how they fit into things, but yeah, that's nice to see. In fact, it's definitely the front of an engine there. Again, if I was a mechanic, I'd be able to tell you what that was, but I'm not, so I can't. A set of spinners. Oh, this is really, really nice. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it looks like I've done a bit of Tamiya's stuff in 172nd. It looks like that sort of quality of moulding. I mean, I got back into modelling during COVID, like a lot of people did. Spent a couple of years grappling with all helikits that were moulded in the 60s and 70s. So now I've come on to this kind of stuff. I'm really spoiled. There you got the bomb doors. Yeah, they are in two halves. Again, on other kits, I have seen it provided with one long bit of plastic that if you want to pose the bomb doors open, you've got to actually cut the thing in half, and who needs the aggravation, frankly. This is the engine housings and the flaps. It's worth getting this one out. Apologies for the rattliness of the paper. Can't find the end. Here we go. Brute force. Okay. So yeah, these are the engine housings, fairings, is that the word? it's worth noting the level of the engraving of the panel lines is really nicely done. It's in scale, I'd say. Arguments rage over the validity of the, for example, the Airfix stuff. They've got things that you could fly an X-wing down. They're like trenches. These look really sensitively moulded. Yeah, just really, really nice, and there's some quite delicate riveting in there as well. This is sort of Edward standard stuff, really. Of course, Edward don't do anything this big yet. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? You've also got, in this particular package, what's going on here? These, I think, are the flaps, I guess. And then you've got the horizontal stabiliser bit for the back. And then you've got the vertical, I don't know what these are called. You've got two of them, twin rudders for the back. Now, in the version of W4964 that I'm going to build, the plane as it flew in July, let me get this right, July 1944, W4964 took part in a couple of raids on U-boat pens in La Palisse in France. And for at least one of those missions, maybe two, the tail fins were painted up white, or half of them was painted up white. Now, if you look at Revell's representation of the airframe, it gives those white tail fins with the full complement of 105 ops. I don't think that's right, having read the book once. I think if you're going to have those white tail fins, which add a little bit of interest, a little bit of detail, I think you've got to chop a few of the little op markings off, as well as the various other markings. Yeah, I think, just as an aside, I think this Lancaster was unique in actually claiming a searchlight as a kill. Long story short, they were trialling, when the Germans started sending up ME-110s, BF-110s, with the Schrager music, with the gun out the back to try and shoot the Lancasters in the belly. They came up with a solution that they trialled. They just put a hole in the bottom of the Lancaster. They trialled it on 3 or 4 planes, I think, with 9 Squadron, with a machine gun in there. It wasn't very popular because it lit up the inside of the plane like a Christmas tree when they got hit by a searchlight. And it got very cold, so it didn't last very long. But the technical officer, whose name I forget, from 9 Squadron, he went along for the ride one time to see how this went. Got in a huge amount of trouble because technical officers aren't supposed to go out on active ops. But anyway, they were picked out by a searchlight, and he returned fire, and the searchlight went out, so they gamely claimed a searchlight and put a little sort of kill marking on the fuselage as well. So that's another one of the quirks of this particular plane. All this, I'm not going to get this out because there's tons of it, but this is the interior, and it looks like a full interior, which of course 9/10 of it you won't be able to see, but more on that in a minute. Again, beautifully moulded. I mean, the detail on some of the interior stuff with the, what is this, pipework, bottles, I don't know what this stuff is. I don't know what it is, I don't know what it does. I'm sure I'll find out in the course of. Check my references if I had some references. But yeah, there's nothing to be sad about there. This is, I guess, the bomb door floors. Like all kits, you can get a ton of aftermarket for these days. I've seen some etch detail for this stuff, but for example, I think the bomb door set from Edward in photo etch is something like 64 quid or something crazy. So I don't think going down that road. And then you've got the transparencies, which are lovely. Yeah, they're beautifully moulded. Well protected with its card wrapper there. They'll be staying there until showtime, I think. But you can see the main canopy there is just beautiful. It's really nicely moulded. Very, very transparent and clear. The side porthole style windows, I think, for this particular airframe, as were many, or I think all Lancasters later in the war, they actually had the windows painted over, which is a shame really, but there we are. So that's the plastic. There's a lot of it, and it's all lovely. Okay, let's get this lot out of the way. Then you've got the decals. Oh, and you've also got some etch. Let's have a look. I'll open this up. So as I said, you've got 2 options out the box, both very similar looking Lancasters, but there are many, many aftermarket options out there, even in 148. Obviously, aftermarket guys see, you know, a company like HKM launch a kit like this and they get busy producing. It's an opportunity for them, you know, so there are plenty of other options out there. These are the main, oh my god, look at the size of those roundels. Yeah. I mean, doing my little 148 Spitz, they've got big enough roundels, but I've never seen anything quite that big, to be honest. That's remarkable. So on there, you've got most of your stencils, you've got your walkway lines, you've got your fin flashes, and then on a separate sheet, you've got your, on a separate sheet, you have got, these are the individual aircraft codes, the serial numbers, and the squadron and individual aircraft codes, and Mickey Mouse. Yeah, look at that. That is really, really nicely printed. Who are they printed by? Cartograph in Italy. Well-known printers to most of the major brands in decals these days. They always do a good job. I mean, perfectly in register, beautifully printed. Thick enough, thin enough, who knows, but that's them. But I won't be using those. Okay, so that's the stuff that's in the box, and so far so good. There's nothing to complain about there. Ask me again when I start building the thing. The actual decals I'm going to be using are these from Kits World, excuse me, Kits World. Again, they have a whole range of different aftermarket decal options in 72nd and 1/48th scale. There might even be for the people that have got huge palatial dwellings that live in that got the room for these things. There is a 1/32nd scale Lancaster out there. I think they even do them. But these are the decals I got for this job. And there they are. So you see little Johnny Walker there. The story goes that when Johnny Walker did do what everybody thought was its 100th op, was in fact its 102nd, the Johnny Walker Whiskey Company actually sent them a case of whiskey and got a lot of publicity about it. So yeah, you've got 104 ops marks on that one. And there's the little searchlight. Now sadly the searchlight thing I think happened after La Palisse, so that's going to have to come off. Because of course the accuracy Gestapo are going to be calling around my house and having a good look. It's crazy, isn't it? So yeah, that looks good. Again, they're quite large, a lot larger than I'm used to. And that comes with some nice, well that's just blank, you've got the call outs there, and here the airframe is portrayed without its white tail frames, that's just black, which for that particular time would be accurate. Now, something it points out here, I mentioned before that this airframe took part in the first Tirpitz raid, Paravane I think it was, the operation. It went with 617 Squadron and the rest of its pals from 9 Squadron. They were both, highly regarded precision bombing outfits. Now, most but not all of the aircraft on that mission carried the tall boy bombs, the big, what they call them earthquake bombs, because Tirpitz was a big old ship. But not all of them. Some of them carried what were known as JW, or funnily enough Johnny Walker mines. I can't find anywhere. Not that it matters for my build, but I can't find anywhere whether it carried the big bombs or whether it carried the mines. If it had the big bombs, the bomb bay doors were modified. They were bulged. Whether they stayed on for the rest of its short career, I don't know. Interestingly, also, yeah, I mean this is very much with the Tirpitz raid in mind, because I've just noticed that the dorsal, is it dorsal, is that the word? Yeah, the dorsal turret is missing. Same as with the Dambuster raids from 617. They removed those to save weight. If they're carrying a big old bomb, so this suggests that Kits World at least think that this was carrying a Grand Slam tall boy bomb. Not actually sure that the turrets are removed for that first op. I know they were for the second and third op, Lancaster op that is at the Tirpitz, but not sure that was the case with the first one. Check your references, usual thing. So no problems there. And finally, to tighten the thing up a bit, we've got this. This is the Big Ed set from Edouard, which contains what I sort of call the essentials if you really want to take the build seriously. Exhibit A, masks. Don't go near that amount of transparent plastic without masks. I'd just lose my mind. So that's a given. I'd probably buy that by itself anyway. But in this little package that I've got from Hannants, you also get what we got here. That's lovely. I've used a lot of these on Edouard's Spitfires, and these are fantastic, these products. It's almost like cheating. Is it cheating? Pre-painted etch? I'm not actually sure. But there they are, and they look fantastic. They're installed. And on the other side, you've got some other flim flam, which isn't pre-painting, that needs pre-painting, but that replaces a lot of the things that will be in the interior, which might be overscale. I mean, an example that comes to mind that I'm more used to is, for example, the armour plating on the back of a Spitfire pilot seat. You'll get it in plastic in pretty much every kit, but if it was to scale, it'd be like 6 inches thick or something, so they sort that out with a bit of etch. So you got that, that's lovely. You've also got radiators, yeah. So they're quite nice. And finally, I don't really understand why this wouldn't be included with the same package as the instrument panels and all the rest of it, but there we are. These are seatbelts. some really nice pre-painted seat belts. So you can do a wonderful job of the interior. You can detail the thing to death. You can weather it. You can texture it. You can do the whole thing. Then you close these two things up with the bomb door in it, or the bomb bay in it, and you kiss goodbye to the thing forever. But, you know, that's modelling, isn't it? Right, so that is it. It appears, I apologise for not waving to people, because there's just a constant stream of people coming on board, which I'm A, delighted by, and B, slightly alarmed by, because I honestly thought I'd be talking to a phone by myself in a room like a sad man. So, yeah, thank you for having a look in. Follow my Instagram account at 36 feet 10 inches for progress. I might put another film on. I might stick this on YouTube. I don't know. All sorts of possibilities. If you've got any questions, any suggestions, you want to tell me I should get a shave, just send me a message. Always delighted to hear from modelling brothers and sisters around the world. So thank you for looking in. I'm signing out for now. Hope you've all enjoyed, if you're in the UK or wherever, you've enjoyed the coronation today. No great monarchist myself, but it's quite something to watch. Have a great rest of the weekend, everybody, and thank you very much for looking in. Bye.